Better Picks is safe, secure, and super easy to use.
All right, big thanks to my man Chris Burkhardt, who was able to come out of the bullpen and help out today. Michael Shacker needed the day off, and so Chris Burkhardt is in. Great to see you, my friend. You're always willing to work. That's what I love about you.
What's even going on? I haven't been behind this glass for a minute.
I
Feels
know.
weird.
I'm impressed, though, man. So far, no technical issues, and I've learned from Brendan and Shacker that if things are going to go sideways on the show, it's usually right out of the gate when you go from automation into live and local programming.
I would be lying if I said I was not sweating bullets back here, because I have been on the receiving end of your death glare when the proverbial S hits the fan.
That's true. I have really tamed over the years. You'd be surprised, but 20 years ago, that stuff used to drive me crazy. But I've learned in life that in radio's the same way. Technical issues are going to happen. People are going to make mistakes. It is what it is. So you just learn to roll with it and move on. But it's great to see you, and I'm glad you're here. I just had an amazing truth dropped on me. I've always wondered for like the last 30 or 40 years of my life, because we would hit different restaurants or different fast food places when we were younger. And my parents always loved going to Wendy's, as did my Nana and my Papa. I think they liked the idea of chili. My Papa loved the Frosties. And my dad liked the fact that you get a baked potato at a fast food restaurant. He thought that was genius, right? My only question was, why are they the only people on the planet with square hamburgers? Like, why would you do that? Hamburgers are round, pancakes are round. Why is your burger square? Like, I never understood that, but whatever. I just never understood why they went square and everyone else is going round. Do you know the answer as to why?
It is one of the things that I have pondered, but I have never known, but I have wondered why myself.
All right. Well, I went back to talk to Casey Bay and Promotions about some of the tickets that we're going to give away today. A 4-pack of tickets for the Hops. We have 2 pairs for the Portland Thorns. So we got a lot of tickets to give away today. And he's real big on pop culture and trivia and different stuff from like the 70s and 80s. And so we started talking about Wendy's because he's got a sweet coffee mug in his office. And it's got a picture of the old lady from the commercial. And on one side of the cup, it's got her picture. On the other side, "Where's the beef?" which is one of their big campaigns that they had back in the 80s, which was pretty awesome. And I said, dude, Wendy's is cool, but what's up with the square burgers? Like, I never understood that. And I've literally been wondering that almost my entire life. And he goes, I know the answer. I was like, get out. You know the answer? He goes, yes. It was part of their campaign by Dave Thomas, the original founder. We don't cut corners.
That's great.
It's great. It's genius. We don't cut corners. And that was a big deal and a big campaign they had way back in the day. And that's why they go with square burgers. And then I learned this as well. Casey added in this other little tidbit. Dave Thomas used to work for Colonel Sanders. He told me that he heard that Colonel Sanders would cuss like a sailor. But Colonel Sanders is the one who helped Dave Thomas with the franchising of Wendy's, because Dave had an idea of, hey, I've got this burger idea. And it was Colonel Sanders, who he used to work with, that gave him kind of the blueprint and the roadmap for how to franchise. So there you go. If you're ever wondering maybe it's late at night, maybe for you youngsters out there, you've been out at a party or whatever, and you stop by Wendy's for some late night grub, and you're ever wondering why they have square burgers, I just got the answer. They don't cut corners, which is a genius ad campaign. All right, coming up on the show, we have 2 pairs of tickets to give away for the Portland Thorns, and we have a 4-pack of tickets to give away for the Hillsboro Hops. The Hops game coming up against Tri-City on the 25th. We will give those away coming up in about 15 minutes. So be here or be nowhere. So we got multiple pairs of tickets. The voice of the Blazers, Travis Demers, is going to join us to talk some playoffs at 4:20. I want to get his take on a variety of things. Also, an interesting conversation he had with his son Lincoln last night about who he appreciates and who he idolizes. And I was surprised by the 3 names that his son Lincoln came up with. And then at 5:20, Brad Botkin from CBS is going to join us. I would say he's probably my favorite NBA analyst to talk with. He's really sharp, understands the game, and there's a lot of great storylines because these playoff series so far in the first round have not disappointed. Well, aside from Memphis getting thrashed by 51 points, the other games have been very compelling, like we saw last night with New York and Detroit, and, of course, the Clippers and Nuggets from Denver. Both of those games have been fabulous. Both of the Pistons and Knicks games have been fabulous, and I'm looking forward to the game tonight, Lakers and Timberwolves. Damian Lillard is going to make his playoff debut tonight. I would anticipate a minutes restriction coming off of the deep vein thrombosis, but we'll see him in action in a critical game for the Bucks if they hope to get back in the series. and really try to put Indiana to the test to see how things are going to shake out. The game I'm looking forward to the most, of course, is Game 2, Rockets and Warriors. I think that series is highly compelling. I love the Rockets and the way they play and their mentality and their coach, Ime Udoka, the toughness that they bring. The question is, can they find someone to make a shot? Yes, defense is good, and defense wins championships, but you do need someone that can score and knock down shots on a semi-regular basis. The Warriors have that. His name's Steph Curry. Oh, they also have Jimmy Butler. Now, that might be the only two guys they can really depend on to make shots, but they have that. So the Rockets, we'll see what they're able to come up with. But that's kind of the blueprint and the map for today. So if you want to reach out to me, you can find me on social media at Chad in Rip City, at Chad in Rip City. And then you can also call the program and take part. Just dial up 503-248-0620. Now, I got sad news today, and I'm sure most of you are familiar, especially those who are around my age, but longtime play-by-play announcer who did a ton of work for ESPN over the years with college football, college basketball, and the NFL. Mike Patrick has passed away from natural causes at the age of 80. And the way I look at play-by-play voices, and for you sports fans out there, I think you would understand, especially here in Portland with Bill Schonely, these people who are calling games over the course of multiple decades, they're really a major part of the soundtrack of our life. Because these big moments that we experience in sport are usually being narrated by somebody, right? Like Bill Schonely, think about the impact he had on all the people here in Rip City when the Blazers won the championship in 77. Can you imagine that? How many people were listening to the call when they won the championship and how that sound and all the images were burned in their brains forever? I remember who was on the call for Super Bowl 32 when John Elway got his first ring. That was Dick Enberg, who was one of my favorites. Brent Musburger, Al Michaels, all of the big ones. And it's not just the national guys, but the local guys that you grew up with as well. And especially for those who, really enjoy radio. I think radio's got a way of connecting, but television the same way. It's really cool. But Mike Patrick was the voice of Sunday Night Football on ESPN. And I remember its inception. And I thought Mike Patrick was terrific. And he was one of those guys who was good at all sports, no matter what he did. But he was part of some of the biggest memories that I can recall as a sports fan. And here are a few of my favorite calls.
Dyson and Bird are deep. Taken by Neal. He gives it to Wycheck. Wycheck, that looked like a forward pass. Taken by Dyson. Dyson down the sideline. Dyson's going to go all the way. And there is no flag.
3rd and 9. Elway under pressure. Got away. That's the strength of Elway, and then he throws the ball complete. What a play by Elway. Young makes the catch. Craig on 3rd and 1. Blaze intercepted by Harden. Oh, and Largent unloaded and got the ball. Holy cow, what a shot.
Plummer to throw. Blitz coming. It's intercepted. Picked up by Gary Brackett, and Brackett, touchdown!
So the great Mike Patrick has passed away at the age of 80. And that one clip I had in there is one of the most legendary plays in the history of the NFL. Sunday Night Football, 1988. And this is late in the season, like next to the final week of the regular season. Broncos at the Seahawks. Denver had an injury-riddled year, and they finished up at 8-8. And that was coming off back-to-back trips to the Super Bowl, so young Chad was pretty distraught. But that game was on Sunday Night Football. And what happened is you got to go back to the first week of the regular season. Seattle played at Denver. The Seahawks won the game by a final of, I think it was 21-14. And in that game, Mike Harden hit Steve Largent as he was coming across the middle high and busted up his mouth and knocked him out, gave him a concussion. It was a dirty hit. I hate to say it, but it was. And Steve Largent, even though he played for the Seahawks, he is one of my favorite football players of all time. He went to the University of Tulsa, so he's from my neck of the woods, but he is without question, one of the greatest wide receivers of all time. And he did not have the great athleticism, but he was an incredible route runner, terrific hands, and incredible toughness. And I mean big-time toughness for a smaller guy. But he was so productive and such a superstar and a great player, but so unassuming. And he's a really nice guy. I've had a chance to talk to him a couple of times. But he didn't forget what Mike Harden did to him. And so you fast forward to that game towards the end of the season at the Kingdome, which, by the way, was a loud building for football. Mike Harden picks off Dave Craig, and as Harden leaves the end zone to return it upfield, he had a lot of room in front of him. Steve Largent zeroed in on Harden's blind side, and Mike had no idea where Steve Largent was or the fact that he was hunting him. And as he returned it up to probably about the 25 or the 30, out of nowhere, Largent comes in like a heat-sinking missile and depletes Mike Harden. Knocks him almost over in a full flip. Harden fumbles the football, and then Steve Largent recovered the ball. And he pointed at him to make sure he knew who it was that had hit him and recovered the fumble. And that was his way of saying, yeah, that's payback. Paybacks are a biatch, and I just got you. And it's one of the few times where I've seen one of the Broncos get lit up, and I was cheering for Steve Largent in the moment because I understood what was going on. It was a dirty hit. Largent got payback and then just went about his business. But that was a badass play. And Mike Patrick was on the call. But see, that's what I'm talking about right there. Big moments like that you never forget, and you always know who was a part of it. In that situation, it was Joe Theismann and Dan Patrick. And I love those guys. And you all have those people as well. Mike Patrick, or maybe it's Brent Musburger, or Dick Enberg, or Mike Breen. You know, there's so many good ones that we remember. And we grow up with them because they're on TV or radio. And a lot of these guys do multiple sports, so you hear them across sport, which is really cool. But Mike Patrick was a good one. All right, we'll keep things rolling. We got some basketball to get to. We're going to hear from Tom Thibodeau. He was bitter after the Knicks loss last night in Game 2. Jalen Brunson is quickly becoming one of my favorite players in the NBA, and I'll explain why. He's just awesome, and he's tough, and he's really good at playing basketball. And playing a lefty, you ever defended a lefty? It's so annoying because they shoot from different angles. The ball looks different. Everything about it's weird. He is a real tough cover. All right, Rip City Drive. Travis Demers at 420. Brad Bach and CBS is at 520. I appreciate your time. You got the Rip City Drive here on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, Burkhart, this is pretty sweet. I've got people sending me screenshots of tankathon.com where you can simulate the lottery, which is coming up on May 12th. And my man, John Heitkemper, got Portland in the number one hole on the first spin today, which is nice. I think he did it a few days ago, and it took like 6 or 7 spins. But today, Portland jumped all the way up to number one with the first spin, which is pretty exciting. Now, I did not know, but they had the official coin toss for the Suns and Trailblazers yesterday, who were tied for the 9th spot in the upcoming lottery. How did the coin toss turn out?
Well, they did that dividing of that. So everyone catching up to speed, what they did is they take those odds of 9 and 10, add them together, divide them in half. Anything left over after you divide it in half, there was a proverbial coin flip. It was a drawing to see who would win, and the Suns won that drawing. So they get the extra odds added to them. That slightly changes the Tankathon numbers by like 1/10 of a percentage.
Yeah.
But it does favor the Suns, which unfortunately for the Suns, that pick goes to Houston. So it doesn't really matter for them. But as you just said a second ago, even though it's marginal, you want as many of those odds as you can.
There's no question. Now, what were you telling me a moment ago about teams in the 10th spot in the lottery?
Yeah, so I did some digging, and I made this Excel sheet last summer when Portland was going into the draft, and we still have it there. But you can go through, and only twice, Chad, since 1985, which was as far back as I could go, and keep in mind back then you had fewer teams entering the lottery and all that, but still, only twice has a team who entered with the 10th or worst odds, so 10th, 11th, 12th, etc., only twice has one of those teams jumped up to get the number one overall pick. One of those was last year with Atlanta.
Well, the official numbers, Portland has a 16.9% chance to jump into the top 4. In comparison, Phoenix in 9th, who won the coin toss, 17.3% chance, so 0.4% more chance to jump into the top 4. In regard to the overall number one pick in Cooper Flag, Portland has a 3.7% chance to land number one overall, and Phoenix 3.8% chance. So, yeah, marginal change in numbers, but still, when it comes down to these ping pong balls and the opportunity to maybe have a shot at Cooper Flag, you want as many chances as possible.
No, absolutely you do. And it is interesting, Chad, 'cause when you look at those numbers on Tankathon, and if anyone hasn't gone there, definitely go check it out because they got some really, really good numbers for you. But when you look at the overall odds, Chad, as you were just talking about how those get down for the number one overall pick, interestingly enough, they factor in the chance that a team jumping into the top 4 is actually pretty high. It happens almost every single year. So Portland does have, at this point, a 63% chance of retaining that 10 spot, but they also have an 18% chance of falling to 11, according to Tankathon.
All right, here is the latest mock draft. Most mock drafts have the same 4 players going in the top 4. Cooper Flag from Duke at 1. Dylan Harper, who is that lengthy point guard, 6'6", from Rutgers, going number 2. Ace Bailey, his teammate from Rutgers, the small forward, going 3rd. And VJ Edgecombe from Baylor, the shooting guard, going number 4. So that's your top 4. And if the Blazers jump up into the top 4, I mean, look, yes, Cooper Flag is the ultimate fantasy, and I hope that happens. Like, I pray to God. Like, can you imagine? I just asked Chris that question. Can you really imagine how great that would be? Imagine the greatest thing you could ever experience, and it would be that.
And trust me, you get some Blazer fans who go, well, if they got Cooper Flag, like, who would be out of the lineup? Would it be Denny? Would it be Two? Would it be Sharp? Who cares? Who cares? If you get Cooper Flag, he's probably your best player day one. Like, look, the guy's phenomenal.
Yeah, landing Cooper Flag would be like 1982 Linda Carter walking in this studio right now with her Wonder Woman outfit on. It'd be amazing. So
okay, boomer.
So there you have it. But I'm with Chris. I just hope they jump into the top 4 so you can have access to one of those top players and add another, great young talent to the roster. It's coming up on May 12th. That's when the NBA draft lottery is. Now, Sean and Sandy chimed in. We were talking about Wendy's. I just found out before the show a 40-year mystery in my mind. Casey Bay told me why Wendy's has got square burgers. Because I was always like, what are you special? So you're going to go square when everyone else is going around. It's ridiculous. Well, no, it was a genius marketing campaign from Mr. Dave Thomas, the founder. we don't cut corners. And that's why they had square burgers. It's actually pretty genius when you think about it. Well, Sean says, being from the great state of Ohio. Now, can we say that? Is Ohio a great state? Yeah, I think it probably is. They produce a lot of great athletes there for sure. I grew up going to and supporting Wendy's, where Wendy's was founded in '64, and Big Dave is buried today. Wendy's for many years voted best fast food. I voted and have taken surveys for many, many years back in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s. I'm proud to say Arby's and Wendy's are both from Ohio. I remember when Arby's actually cut their meats on the front counter with a real meat slicer, just like a butcher. I don't know what it is about the Arby's roast beef, but they must lace it with some type of crack. It's really good. Young Chad, being young is great because you can eat without consequence. And I miss those days because that's not my life now. I have to portion everything out. I'm real dialed in on nutrition. But back in the day, I'd be like, yeah, Mom, I'll get 2 beef and cheddars and throw in some of them potato wedges or whatever they are, and I'll eat some of those too. I didn't think about it for a second. I didn't worry about it. I wasn't worried about caloric intake. I just wanted to eat as much as possible. And the same goes with the KFC. I had no idea that Colonel Sanders gave Dave Thomas the secret recipe on how to franchise, but he did. It's very friendly.
You know what I love about KFC? You know that they have their secret blend of 11 herbs and spices?
Yeah.
Do you know the official KFC account on Twitter follows the Spice Girls and then a couple random people named Herb? So they only follow 11 herbs and spices.
That's so good.
It's genius.
That's so good. What else did I learn? Oh, yeah. So the original Pancake House, there's one here in town. It's right up there off Barber Boulevard. You ever been there, Burkhart?
I have not eaten there, but I did drive by it just yesterday. So, yeah,
Oh,
I
I'm
know
glad
what
I
you're
could
talking
bring
about.
it up. Well, they have some of the best pancakes that a person could ever have. They're delicious. And I don't know what they do that makes them so special, but they're amazing. And if I'm going to have something off my normal daily intake, pancakes are something I would seek, just regular pancakes. Well, anyways, I was there one day and I was talking to the server and I was trying to get her to tell me what they do to the pancakes that make them so delicious. Like, hey, can you share a secret or something that I could try at home? And they have to sign, this is awesome, but I love it when you find out little tidbits like this. They have to sign like a disclosure agreement before they take on work there, not to share any of the secrets of the restaurant. So they don't give up any details because they don't want anyone to know. So word gets out and someone could go out there and try to copy them. That's pretty awesome. You know you got something that's pretty good when you have people sign disclosure agreements to make sure you don't share secrets. Don't you like that?
It's pretty awesome.
Right? Like, I feel like your father should have a disclosure agreement to make sure none of his employees or family members share any secrets about the beef jerky you bring over from the original steer, because that stuff is unbelievable.
Why, thank you. It is pretty good. I'll get on that. He likes to give away the farm sometimes. You got to be careful with him.
Oh, it's so good. I love that your mom and dad are two different people. Mom wants you to pay for everything. Dad is like, no son of mine's ever going to pay for any meat. He can have what he wants.
I went in there the other day and I was getting some steaks and this lady's at the counter and everyone was busy. So I'm like, hey, how you doing? And so I start helping her and my dad goes, did you hop counter? I go, yeah. And she's right there. I go, she said it was the best service she's ever had. And I just take my steaks and leave. And he just smiled. He thought it was pretty good.
I don't blame you, man. I would use that all the time, especially when you got hungry little young mouths to feed. I don't like going through the grocery store. I understand now why my dad, from a very young age, he never went shopping and never wanted my mom to share receipts or anything like that. He didn't want to know. But now when I go through the grocery store or I go to a restaurant or I'm buying something for my kids, I'm like, how can it be so much?
Yeah.
What's going on here?
Yeah.
Everything, milk, cereal, eggs, the whole shebang.
I'm starting to realize why you sit there and you're like, how come, you know, when we were growing up, mom and dad were like, oh, we don't have the money for that. Now that they got grandkids, they spoil them. It's because they don't have 4 mouths to feed at their house every day. The food bill has drastically dwindled. I'm like sitting here going, gosh, when these kids move out, I'm going to save so much money.
Dude, and I'm already ticked off today because I was talking to my dad, and Isaac is going to roll over to Grandma and Grandpa's house because Isaac raked leaves, and they've got all these leaves in these trash bags that need to be moved from down below in the backyard up to the front and put in the truck so they can be hauled away. And it's a lot of work, right? Not a lot, but there's a lot of bags. And I found out how much my dad is going to pay Isaac to do that. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. There's no way on God's green earth that you would pay me anywhere, just a fraction of that. It's just unbelievable how friendly grandparents are with their grandkids.
They absolutely are. It's pretty insane.
All right, so there you have it, the mock draft. You can go to Tankathon and simulate the lottery. The Blazers sitting there in 10th after losing the coin toss, and the draft lottery is coming up on May 12th. Travis Demers will talk some hoop with us coming up at 4:20 here on the Rip City Drive. Well, NBA playoffs last night, a couple of really good games, and so far the first round has treated us to great games. It's been great because I got people texting me. Tony and Boring was hitting me up last night. He was watching the Clippers and Nuggets, and what a thrilling finish to the game that was. And Kawhi Leonard, who looked awful in game one, put up one of the best performances we've seen in the first round last night. And it's so frustrating when I watch Kawhi. He's got the big hands, an incredibly physical body. He can work one-on-one. He's a great defender. He can elevate. There's nothing he can't do on a basketball floor. But the problem is you don't know when you can rely on the guy. It's like, when is Kawhi going to play? Or when's he going to disappear? And no one really seems to know, which is frustrating because he's such a great basketball player. And it's got to be frustrating as a coach to not know when he's going to be available. But last night, 39 minutes, 39 points, 5 assists, 2 steals. And check out this efficiency from Kawhi. 15 of 19 from the field, 4 of 7 from downtown, 5 of 5 at the free throw line. It doesn't get much better than that. It's terrific. And when he's playing like that, good luck trying to beat them. And after the game, David Adelman trying to figure out what's going on. Missed free throws, mistakes, and why didn't they call a timeout at the end of the game?
You can't miss 8 free throws in games like this. That was a killer. And obviously the points off turnovers, just like in game one, we won that battle, and tonight they won that battle. And games like this, a grind, and the possessions are so tough. Those easy baskets going the other way are such a killer.
Yeah, there's no question. So it was the Clippers who had 20 turnovers in game one, the Nuggets with 20 turnovers in the game last night. And they were 14 of 22 at the foul line. How's that possible? How does Jokic go 6 of 10 from the charity stripe? He had a triple-double, no surprise, 26, 12, and 10. But the Nuggets just not good enough down the stretch to get the job done. And it surprised me because I expected when it was a close game there late in the fourth, I just thought Jokic would do the right thing and make the right decision and do enough to help Denver get over the top and take a 2-0 lead. But it was Jokic missing free throws and turning the ball over late. And that's a big-time mistake. Now, the other question is, why didn't the Nuggets call timeout? Because they never got a good look, a clean look to really have a chance to tie the game.
Hindsight's obviously 2020, but I believe you had a timeout there.
Yeah.
There late. Can you just kind of explain the thought process on letting it ride?
Yeah, multiple reasons. In transition, I thought we had a chance to get an open three. Numbers were going the other way. Traditionally, they foul up 3. I thought we'd get the best opportunity. I thought CB was open when he caught it to shoot it. And then obviously off the offensive rebound, my first instinct was to call timeout, but the ball came to Nikola. And I did not think we could get him a good catch if they're going to foul. And if I call the timeout, then we have none left after that. So it's a tough situation. When you get runouts like that, a lot of times in our league with guys falling down and the numbers, you can find a 3 that way. Unfortunately, it didn't work out.
Yeah, I support Coach Adelman with his decision. With the Clippers, especially with the guys they got on the floor, with their length and their defensive-minded personnel, if you allow them to set their defense, they probably would foul, but more than likely, you're not going to get a good look because they would be set defensively. So you instead inbound the ball, go straight up the court, and try to get a good shot. It just didn't work out. They didn't get the good look. They didn't get a clean look, and it didn't work out. But I can understand, completely why he chose to do what he did. And I got to be honest with you, listening to Coach Adelman throughout the course of the series so far, I like his assessment. He's very even-keeled, much like his pops. And I think he's doing a good job. But that's going to be a very highly contested series. I would expect the games that we've seen in 1 and 2 in Denver, it's probably going to be very similar in L.A. And how cool is it going to be to have playoff games at Intuit Dome? I still can't believe that the Clippers, like one of the worst franchises in the history of sport, they've got the Taj Mahal of all arenas now, thanks to Steve Ballmer and his ridiculous cash. Like Steve Ballmer's doing everything he can to turn the Clippers into something more than what they've ever been. Like just trash, but he's trying to do his best. I mean, he is shining it up big time. But the Clippers, again, Kawhi, it all comes down to him. Is he available? Is he going to be able to play big minutes? Will he get nicked up? Is he going to be okay? I mean, those are the questions we don't know the answer to. That's got to drive you crazy if you're a coach, knowing that your guy's going to be there and be available. Like, it's so critical. But very impressed with what we saw from Kawhi last night. That's about as consistent as you get. Now, in the other game, the Pistons able to get the win over the Knicks in Madison Square Garden. What impressed me the most was after game one, when they had that 21-0 run and they blew game one after being up almost the entire game, they didn't look defeated or deflated. I thought that might crush their souls being a young team in the postseason for the first time. But you heard from guys like Cade Cunningham, they just had fun. They enjoyed being out there in the competition, and they came out with a positive mindset in game number 2, and they really took it to them. And Cade Cunningham was awesome, 33 points and 12 rebounds. And I thought defensively they did a pretty good job, and they were able to limit Jalen Brunson early to where they could build their lead, and then things took off from there. It was impressive, and J.B. Bickerstaff, their coach, talked about it after the game.
We did what we were supposed to do, and that was it. To win a game on the road, to get home court was what we came here for. So we approached it with a business-like mentality and learned from the fourth quarter the other night, but we just did what we were supposed to do.
Yeah, the Pistons haven't won a playoff game since like 2008, and they're going to be at home. The fans are going to be loud. That's going to be a great atmosphere at Little Caesars, and so I'm excited about that series. Just happy for the Pistons, one of the great stories in the NBA this year. But Jalen Brunson, one of my favorite players in the NBA. I love watching the ball. I think he's tough, and he's incredibly creative for an undersized guard. And those lefties are tough. But here he is talking about the Pistons.
I feel like they definitely picked up their intensity. And, I mean, when it comes to playoffs, the team that loses comes back is just more into it. And it's just a natural reaction when you're in the playoffs. And then when you lose, you find a way to figure out how to come back next game and be better. And you got to give them a lot of credit. And then now it's on us to respond.
Yeah, very classy. And there was also a little Q&A with Brunson, giving his assessment on how he played last night.
Jalen, what did you think about your own game offensively tonight?
I feel like I'm getting the spots and missing shots I normally make. And I feel like it could be a lot better. And I hold myself to a higher standard when it comes to that. And, I just got to put my team in position to win. And all the other stuff doesn't really matter.
There you go. Brunson, it's pretty awesome when you finish with 37 points and realize you could have played better. Just 4 of 12 from 3, 7 assists, a couple of steals. But his toughness, he's the heart and soul of the New York Knicks. Now, Tom Thibodeau, well, he's tough, and he was upset with the rebounding.
The rebounding was problematic the whole night, so that's probably the difference in the game. You got to get stops. I thought we had some good looks at threes, and we didn't make. So trust the pass, and, but we got to rebound. And
finally, Coach Thibodeau, like many coaches, not pleased with the officiating.
Huge discrepancy in free throws. Huge. So I got to take a look at that. I don't understand, how on one side, you talk about direct line drives, the guy's getting fouled and it's not being called, right? So, and look, I really don't give a crap how they call the game as long as it's consistent on both sides. So if Cunningham's driving and there's marginal contact and he's getting to the line, then Jalen deserves to be getting to the line. It's really that simple.
Yeah, and I'm with Coach on that. I don't give a flying rip how you call the game. Just be consistent. But they can't be. That's my biggest frustration with NBA officiating is lack of consistency night to night. It's really weird. But Burkhart, don't you love Brunson? How can you not love Jalen Brunson? His toughness, his creativity, his shot making at his size, and just his demeanor and the way he handles his business. I love everything about that guy.
The only knock on him is he's a foul merchant, right? Little SGA, little James Harden in him, but that's also don't hate the player, hate the game,
yeah,
right?
Trae Young,
right?
Trae Young.
Yeah, but if they're gonna call that and they're gonna let it do it, is it annoying? Sure, but it's playing smart. But I'd love Brunson because here's the thing. Dallas was like, oh, yeah, you can't be the running mate next to Luka. We're just going to basically let you walk bye-bye, see you later. He goes to the biggest stage in basketball, and he's turned into a star. He's put that team on his back. What's not to love? There was a moment in time, Chad, where we were having realistic conversations about who would you rather have as a young guard, Anthony Simons or Jalen Brunson, right? We were having those realistic conversations. They were on that same kind of arc. Only one of those guys has turned into an absolute stud, and he's not the one in Rip City.
Nico Harrison's just a complete buffoon.
Have you ever seen a general manager more out of touch with his team, his fan base, everything? That quote yesterday.
Don't give it up. I just heard it last night for the first time. I thought it was AI. It was so bad.
I did too. I went journalistic mode and was trying to source. I got to source this. This is made up. This has to be made up. Then I found it.
We got to play it next. You're not going to believe it. I'll find a way. I've got it. I got to figure out. I found it on IG. I got to find a way to get it to where we can play it. It's so dumb and bad. It's like, how can you not be fired? That's like reprehensible comments for a general manager.
It's bad.
It's that bad. We'll play it for you next. Travis Demers coming up at 4:20. You got the Rip City Drive. Hey, Chris, we just listened to the comments during the break. You hear it and you're like, how can that be? How can he say this? What's going on?
He needs his own personal PR team, man. This is like foot in mouth, like gas on the fire, just dumb stuff.
And Patrick DeMont needs a PR team as well. Like, I literally do not understand how you can have these corporations worth billions of dollars, and yet they regularly put people out there in front of the media without a plan.
Yeah.
It's like, what are you guys doing?
It's insane.
It's truly insane. And you cannot tell me that you have the best interest of your franchise at heart if you're dealing Luka and not getting a ton of future first-round picks to rebuild your team with.
Yeah, you sold him for pennies, essentially, really, if you want to get down to it. Yeah, it's dumb.
All right, take a listen to Nico. This is a little Q&A, and it's a great question, and the answer is just unbelievable from Nico. Nico Harrison, general manager for the Mavericks, the guy who butchered the presentation with Nike with Steph Curry by leaving Kevin Durant's name up on the little overhead projector or the PowerPoint or whatever it was, and the guy who traded Luka to the Lakers in exchange for Anthony Davis and one future first-round pick.
When you were kicking the idea of this trade around and you had various scenarios planned in your head, did the anger and outrage from the fan base, has that exceeded what you were kind of planning for?
Yeah, good question. I did know that Luka was important to the fan base. I didn't quite know it to what level, but really the way we looked at it is, you know, if you're putting a team on the floor that's Kyrie, Clay, PJ, Anthony Davis, and Lively, we feel that's a championship caliber team, and we would have been winning at a high level, and that would have quieted some of the outrage. And so unfortunately we weren't able to do that, so it just continued to, you know, go on and on.
Do you understand?
That's the general manager of a basketball team admitting that he didn't truly understand how important their superstar player, global icon Luka Doncic was to his fan base.
Bad.
That's like Jeannie Buss coming out after trading Kobe and saying, I really didn't quite understand how closely connected the fan base was with Kobe Bryant.
Right. It's like I that was the first thing I put on Twitter. Like, could you imagine 2 summers ago if Joe Cronin was like, I knew Dame was important to Rip City. I just didn't know how important he was to the fan base. Like, are you kidding me?
No, the first thing that Joe knew was this is going to be a big deal because he means everything to us, the team, the town, all of it.
Right. I mean, here's the deal. You don't live in Texas, Chad. You live here in the Pacific Northwest, and you know how important Luka is to the city of Dallas, that franchise, their fans, everybody. Right? It's like Giannis in Milwaukee, right? Like, you know these things. You don't have to be at the United Center or whatever it's called now to understand that. Nico's right there, and he says that dumb stuff.
Every sports fan is well aware of what a franchise player means to their team. Why do you think we want Cooper Flagg so bad? Because we understand what that would mean for the entire franchise, town, fan base, area, all of it. It would be critical. And then when you have a player who has embraced the local area, he wasn't looking to go. He loved Dallas.
Yeah.
He had built a home there. He wanted to be there for a long time.
Well, you saw the ESPN interview with Malika Andrews where he showed his phone that's still cracked because when he got the news that he was traded, he smashed his phone.
Yeah.
Like, he was upset.
Oh, my gosh. I feel like that's a fireable offense to come out and admit that you didn't know. You can't say that, but he said that.
Yeah. And then the ESPN article about him letting go of, you know, all the trainers and stuff and the people that basically asked questions and that gave him pushback, goes and hires a trainer that doesn't even have the credentials required by the NBA. And it's just like this guy, he's in over his skis, man. It's wild.
The Lakers had no pathway to the Western Conference Finals before the trade. And I'm not saying they're going to get there, but with Luka, they now have a pathway to the Western Conference Finals.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah. I mean, just think about that. Dallas was, you know, in the hunt. They were there, like the 5 seed something when the trade happened? They fall out. Here, now they're done. Can't even get through the play-in. Meanwhile, the Lakers end up, putting it together, and they can make noise, all because of Luka, man.
I would have never done the trade to begin with.
No.
But I figured after it went down, I was like, there must be something really bad. Like Luka had done something wrong. There was some dirty details. There was something toxic, like really bad. But come to find out, there's not. They just didn't like the way he approached the game with his conditioning. And I think they were frustrated with his defensive performance in the NBA Finals.
Yeah.
And that's it. There's no dirt. There's no issue.
None. But if you have a really good player and you don't like his defensive effort, then put a roster around him that can mask it, man. That's not what Golden State has done for the last decade. Put a team of good defenders around Steph Curry, who was not a great defensive guard.
Exactly. Steph is not a good defender.
Right.
But he makes up for it with why? Because he can drop 40 on any given night.
Yeah, and so can Luka.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
How can you have a player as great as Luka? And Jokic is the same way. Yep. He's not exactly a defender.
Nope.
But they work around that because they understand how good he makes everybody else on the floor. And Luka should be the same way. Luka's never going to be a lockdown defender. He's always going to have issues in that area of the floor. But so what? He's going to outscore the man he's guarding, and he's going to set up his teammates.
Yeah.
Not to mention what he brings in terms of revenue because he's so popular. And I saw his number 77 jersey with the Lakers is now number 1.
Yeah, it's pretty unreal.
I didn't understand the importance of Luka Doncic to the fan base. That's Nico Harrison. He's making millions, and he has no idea what he's doing. Only in America can you be super rich and have no
my
clue.
job's not to be dialed in. It's to do what's in the best interest of the Mavericks. No, you need to understand everything around you.
And you know what's going to happen? He's probably feeling pressure already, but the ownership group, the Adelson Group and DeMont, they're going to continue to take so much heat and hatred for what went down. Nico's going to be the fall guy. He'll get axed.
Oh, yeah.
Because DeMont's going to be like, how did I let you talk me into this, you moron?
Absolutely.
All right, we'll keep things rolling. Travis Demers is coming up at 4:20, and I'm going to give away a 4-pack of tickets for the Hops coming up next. Your chance to win is here. You got the Rip City Drive. What you doing on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, NBA playoffs tonight. The Bucks are at the Pacers coming up here in a few minutes. Indiana with a 1-0 lead. Damian Lillard going to make his playoff debut. Pacers favored by 4.5. Grizzlies are at the Thunder game 2, 4:30 on TNT. OKC a 14.5-point favorite. They took game one by 51. The nightcapper, a good one, 7 o'clock. Timberwolves at the Lakers. LA a 5.5-point favorite after dropping game one. Also, Magic and Celtics game 2 tomorrow in Boston. Jason Tatum doubtful after taking a fall and bruising his right wrist. From the NFL, according to reports, both the Browns and Giants, who own the second and third picks in Thursday's NFL draft, are taking calls from teams on potentially trading back. The Titans are expected to select quarterback Cam Ward at number 1. Jerry Jones didn't offer specifics, but said the Cowboys are working on substantial trades to improve the team. Dallas has 10 picks in the upcoming draft. Got more of the Rip City Drive coming at you right now. Travis Demers is going to join me at 4:20. You know, Chris Burkhardt gave me one of the best compliments you can get from a coworker today. He said, "This is why I like working with you. I come in and you keep everything nice and tidy in the studio." And I appreciate that because I am a neat freak and I've had to learn over the years how to adjust my lifestyle and how, because not everyone you're around or with all the time are the same way. Like, I think children are what helped me adapt.
Yes.
To learn to deal with my obsessions. Like, kids are not like that at all. My daughter is just absolute chaos. Her room's a mess. This is a mess. She'll leave dishes lying around.
Yeah.
And the other thing that drives you crazy, too, is like the dishwasher. Just because you put something in the dishwasher doesn't mean that the dishwasher is capable of cleaning anything.
They think it is, though.
How can you not give a little pre-scrub to your dish before you put it in there?
Yeah.
That stuff drives me bonkers.
I don't complain about that because I'm just happy if it makes it to the dishwasher. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but you mentioned something, too. Like, you'll walk around in the kitchen and you hear, like, the crunching of, like, Cheerios or other things. I was stepping on Doritos the other night, and I know that came from one person, her.
And why is this here? Oh, because Tegan spilled her cup of Cheerios earlier. So you knew it was here and nobody wanted to pick it up?
Yeah.
What are we doing?
That's Nico Harrison activity right there. That's reprehensible. You knew it was there and you just left it.
It absolutely is.
Oh, my gosh.
I knew there was Cheerios on the floor. I just didn't know how much and if they would be stepped on.
Unfortunately, in radio, I've found that the majority of people I've worked with over the years, not exactly neat and tidy. I would say that Michael Shacker, as good as he is, or as we like to say in Boston, Michael Shaka.
Yeah, Shaka.
Shaka.
Michael Shaka.
He's not neat and tidy.
Well, he's got this room back here looking like a public storage unit with audio tapes from Sonics games from 1992 back here.
Yeah. He's got like an entire archive of all Trailblazer games now.
Does.
And he's got the old Sonic stuff from Rich Moore, our boss up in Seattle.
Yeah. What you need to do is if you want this room clean, you got to schedule me for like a week of doing the show for you here because I'll get irritated. I've done it more than once where Shacker comes in. He's like, "Oh, are you the one who cleaned the room?" He has done that. Yeah, because it was filthy.
Yeah. My guess is if I had to predict, he might be a hoarder. That'd be my guess. And we all know people like that.
Yes. Oh, yes. We do big time.
All right. We have a 4-pack of tickets to give away for the Hillsboro Hops. This is for a game on April 25th against Tri-City. Booyah! So if you would like free baseball, why don't you fire away with a phone call right now, 503-248-0620. You'll get a 4-pack of tickets for the Hops. You can sit in the Rip City Radio row, courtesy of me and Chris Burkhardt and your Hillsboro Hops. 503-248-0620. Call now, 503-24. I want to hear from a baseball fan. 503-248-0620. Call now, and the first caller through will get a 4-pack of tickets for the Hops for their game against Tri-City coming up on April 25th, and you can partake. So there you have it, 503-248-0620. Hops tickets during the summertime, Hops Ticket Tuesday. Now, I've got 2 pairs to give away today for the Portland Thorns, and we will be doing that on the show as well. All you have to do is listen to me for your chance to win. I played golf this morning. After some morning chaos, I was able to meet up with my dudes, and it was perfect out there. Last week with the sun, and for you players, you understand, the courses are drying up. And I was getting more kick and roll today. It was in perfect condition. 2 weeks removed from the greens being aerated, so they were rolled and moving very smoothly, and they're only going to get better throughout the course of the week. It was awesome. Absolutely awesome. I wore shorts and had my golf sweater on. I think the temperatures this morning were a little bit cooler. There was some frosting in certain areas, but man, what a day. What a day out there. So it is almost time for prime golf season. But today for me was round number 5. I got 3 in last week. I got my 5th round in today. I'm going to get a chance to play Thursday, Friday. We'll see what the weather's like this weekend. We may get some rain, which could push things back a little bit. But, man, I'm loving this weather right now. This sunshine and everything is great. Now, tonight, after the show, I'm going to go buy a new mattress. I got a new mattress last summer. I think it was July. But the problem is I didn't know what was going on, but I started having back issues, like back pain, which I'm not accustomed to because, with my strength training and I get regular chiropractic care, normally my body's in fine working condition. But I was having these issues, and I finally figured out what the deal was. My mattress is not firm enough. It's too soft. So I went last week to look at different mattresses, and I found one, and I'm going to zero in, and I think I'm going to get that done tonight. So I'm pretty excited about that because, I think what happens is you get older and you start to deal with, different things that you've seen or heard other people deal with. You start to have greater compassion because when your back is not right, it's hard to operate. And so my heart goes out to anyone who's suffering from, discomfort or back pain or whatever the case may be. And my mom's been dealing with, arthritis, the shoulder issue from where she fell, back pain. Like she's been dealing with it for a long time, just the wear and tear of life. But I'm excited to see what the firm mattress can do, but I'm almost positive that's what it is. But I've been adding in some different auxiliary activities with my workout with Luke to help strengthen the spine and get mobility. So I've been able to offset it. And what I do with the adjustable base is I've been sleeping in more of an upright position, not flat. And that's helped me get by with the softer mattress, but I'm pretty excited about that. I don't feel like I've been able to get a full night's rest for an extended period of time. That's frustrating because when you don't sleep well, like my mind, like it's really difficult for me just to function as a normal human being, like because I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but like, when you're not sleeping well, you don't feel like your thoughts are clear. It's hard to piece things together. And the problem is like as you get older and you got kids, you got all these other things going on, it's hard to keep everything straight. So I'm pretty excited about that. That's what's going on. And I'll be out. Forest Hills is looking really good. It's great. This is the best time of the year. We have a lot of things to be thankful for. NFL draft is coming up on Thursday, and we got the NBA playoffs, which will continue. These first-round matchups are great. Really a big fan. And I'm excited about the Laker game tonight because I think the Lakers are going to be okay, and I would expect them to win tonight. But here's the issue with the Lakers, and we saw this pop up in Game 1. They gave up 42 wide-open threes to Minnesota. I'm afraid that the Lakers' defensive issues, their shortcomings, it really could come back to haunt them. I want to see if J.J. Redick is going to continue to double off of Naz Reid because that was a big mistake. And I thought Anthony Edwards did a good job of being a playmaker and creating opportunities for his teammates. And if Ant's going to continue to be able to do that and set his teammates up with good looks, Minnesota's going to be a problem. And for the Lakers, they don't have a center. So you're going to play Jackson Hayes or not? And will they have enough defense if they don't have the size on the floor? I just didn't understand why they lacked intensity. Veteran teams normally understand what the postseason is all about. LeBron clearly knows because he's been there and done that many times over. And Luka's coming off a trip to the finals. And yet they look confused out there. And Minnesota was just taking it to them relentlessly. So I want to see, we'll know early on, looking how the Lakers approach the game, how they start the game, the energy level they have, right from the tip. That's what I'm going to pay attention to. And for Minnesota, if they continue to get their role players, guys like Naz Reid, and others to step up and knock down threes, it's going to be tough. I thought Julius Randle played a smart game, played with really good energy. I thought Minnesota did a good job of sharing the basketball. They pushed the tempo. They created turnovers. They just did everything the right way in game one. And that series is going to be tough. Minnesota is one of those teams where, when you look at this matchup on paper, I just didn't think the Lakers were a prohibitive favorite. I think Minnesota's tough because they do a lot of things well. And Chris Finch is one of the best coaches in the NBA. He just doesn't get the attention that others do because he coaches in Minnesota. But we saw the way the Wolves competed in the postseason last year. So I'm looking forward to that. I do know one thing, that if you're Luka and LeBron and you blow a first-round series where you're the favorite going up against Minnesota, that's just a bad look. It's just a bad look. It'd be bad for the NBA because you know how badly they would love the Warriors and Lakers in round number 2. So I'm going to watch that tonight. Early on, energy and intensity level for the Lakers. And what's the deal with Luka? He was able to score at will in game 1, but only 1 assist. Austin Reeves was out of sorts, and LeBron just, kind of I don't want to say lazy. He just wasn't really in attack mode. So I would expect those things to change tonight. But Minnesota's a team, they're no joke. With the way they defend and get after it, you got to be ready to play. And Edwards is a hungry basketball player. And I like Mike Conley Jr., too. He's been around forever, but he's like an Iron Man. But he's one of those role players that can come in and initiate the offense. Jaden McDaniels is a great defender. They just have some nice pieces. And Julius Randle, not the greatest defender, but he's ultra productive. Good rebounder. He can score on the block. He can put the ball on the floor. He's a unique big with his skill set. So I'm looking forward to the matchups. For Oklahoma City, and Boston, this is the difference when you get that 1 seed and you're playing bums like, Memphis and Orlando. Like, look at Boston. This is why it's such an advantage for them. Jason Tatum took that fall. He bruised his wrist. They're not even going to play him in game 2. They'll rest him. What a luxury it is to know that you don't need your best player to be able to go out and win and dominate a basketball game. And that's what Boston has. They have great depth. And then the combination of Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. And when they played here in Portland this year, they didn't have Jaylen Brown, but they had Tatum. They did just fine. But that's what Mazzulla has done. He's played a lot of guys. He's gotten a lot of the role players' experience. So if they need to lean on somebody else for a game and let one of their stars rest, that's going to be critical. And keep an eye on Jaylen Brown throughout the postseason. He had that shot to deal with inflammation a couple of weeks ago. And the only thing that could derail Boston from getting back to the finals, in my mind, would be either Brown or Tatum missing an extended stretch. You can win a game against Orlando or 2 in the postseason without one of your key guys, but you cannot go on a deep run and get to the likes of Cleveland with one of those guys out for an extended period of time. But I do think Boston, they just have the look and feel of the best team in the NBA. And I would love to see the matchup with Boston and Oklahoma City because the Thunder are like the only team that's capable enough or equipped enough with their talent level to be able to switch all 5 spots and defend the three-point line.
There you go. And Boston, hot off the presses, West Lynn's own Peyton Pritchard named NBA 6th Man of the Year.
Well-deserved.
Well-deserved.
He balled his butt off.
He ran away with it, too. So kudos to him. He got 454 total points. Second place, Malik Beasley of Detroit, 279. Ty Jerome in third for 6th Man of the Year. 82 first-place votes for Peyton Pritchard.
Man, he's been good. He's so much better in the NBA than I thought he would be.
Oh, I have said that many times. I didn't think it was going to translate, but boy, howdy, has he been solid.
Gosh, he's so good. He's been great. But that's what I love about Boston. Like, yeah, don't worry, Tatum, we'll just rest you. That's a big luxury to have when you can rest your guy and know you're going to be fine without him.
Well, we saw it firsthand, right? When they came into Portland and there's no Brown and everyone's hurt, no Drew Holiday, and they just don't skip a beat. They just move the same. The offense is the same. Sam Hauser goes off. Like, they well coached and they move as a unit, and that's what makes them deadly.
And then in game 1, Brown and Tatum didn't have big offensive nights. No worries. Derek White, 30. You get 19 off the bench from Pritchard. They've been doing that all season. All right, when we come back, we'll talk with Travis Demers. We'll get his take on Nico's comments. I want to get his thoughts on the Knicks and Pistons, Lakers, Wolves, and Rockets, Warriors. Travis Demers, the voice of the Trailblazers, coming up next here on the Rip City Drive. On your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, joining me now is my partner, my good friend, the voice of your Portland Trailblazers, the one and only Travis Demers. And Trav, I want to start with this because both Chris and I had the same reaction when we saw it last night. We thought it was AI because it's like there's no way that guy would say this. But listen to this Q&A with Mavs GM Nico Harrison.
Underestimate the other.
And you had various scenarios planned in your head. Did the anger and outrage from the fan base, has that exceeded what you were kind of planning for?
Yeah, good question. I did know that Luka was important to the fan base. I didn't quite know it to what level, but really the way we looked at it is, you know, if you're putting a team on the floor that's Kyrie, Clay, PJ, Anthony Davis, and Lively, we feel that's a championship caliber team, and we would have been winning at a high level, and that would have quieted some of the outrage.
Can you believe that, Trav? He actually admitted that he did not realize the connection or importance of Luka to the fan base. That's wild to me.
Yeah, that sounds like someone who does not belong in a sports leadership position. And he's going through like, oh, if we put out this guy and this guy and this guy and this guy, that's a championship level team. How about the team that you put on the floor last year that got to the championship?
But seriously, Trav, that would be no worse than Jeannie Buss saying, I didn't really understand the connection between Laker fans and Kobe or anybody else in that situation with the star player.
Joe Cronin, when he traded Dame, like, I mean, I knew Blazers fans liked him, but I didn't know they liked him that much.
No, he worked with the understanding of, hey, if we make this move, it's a big deal because he means everything to everyone in the area. He knew that going in, of course.
Yeah, it is. It's a crime to not understand to that level what somebody like Luka Doncic means to a franchise and to a city.
Wow. Well, I want to ask you this because you understand Knicks fans. You grew up in New York. I love Jalen Brunson. He's one of my favorite guys in the NBA. I think he's tough. I'm amazed that a guy at his size can compete with the type of toughness he does. He can hit from all angles. I like his demeanor. How much do Knicks fans appreciate the way he balls out every night?
Yeah, by the way, Nico Harrison also didn't bring back Jalen Brunson, in case you forgot that, too. But they love him, man. And like you said, it's all of the things that he can do on the floor and his toughness, his physicality. He fits that city and that fan base very well. And they haven't had a guy like that in a long, long time. And even when Julius Randle was their best player, fans had been ready for him to be traded for a long time. And then they bring in Jalen Brunson, and he's immediately the dude, even though, you know, it was Julius Randle who was going to all-star games first and not Jalen Brunson. But he was the fan favorite immediately. He means so much to that team and to that city. Not quite to the level of Luka, if we're talking about that kind of thing, because he didn't grow up there. But, you know, he is the guy right now in Knicks fans' eyes.
Do you think the Knicks are okay in the series going back to Detroit, or are they going to have some issues?
Well, I think okay is the best word, but I also think they're going to have some issues. I mean, they got grossly out-rebounded yesterday, and that was, you know, with Isaiah Stewart off the floor. He didn't play last night, and the Pistons still beat him up on the glass. You know, I know Tom Thibodeau was not happy about the free throw issues last night. What was it, 38 to 16 or something like that in terms of attempts, somewhere in that ballpark?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but again, if you watch that game, and we've talked about this in Blazer games this season, usually when one team has a lot more free throws than the other, and part of it's on the officials, but part of it is that they're just not putting themselves in positions to get calls. And I know there were definitely some calls last night, or lack thereof, from the officials where it's like, whoa, what are we doing here? But the Pistons put themselves in better positions to get to the free throw line, and they've been the more physical team. And that is not how it's supposed to be for the New York Knicks. They should never be playing a team that is the more physical team, and that was a problem. And it was a problem in Game 1, too.
Yeah, I like what Thibodeau said after the game. He's like, look, call a game however you want. I really don't care. But just be consistent in how you apply the way that you're going to call the game on both sides. And, like, that's my biggest frustration with officiating from night to night. And to hear a coach say that, I was like, okay, he doesn't care how you call it, just be consistent.
Yeah, and look, I listened to a lot of that game on the radio last night. I was at Lincoln's lacrosse practice, and I had an ear in, and I was listening to it. And Tyler Murray, who is the Knicks radio announcer, I've listened to him a lot this year. He's not me. He does not complain about officials, and he was complaining about the officials last night. And I know to people who haven't listened to him, it doesn't seem like a big deal, but it was.
Well, you mentioned Detroit being the aggressor. I guess what surprised me in Game 1 of the Lakers and Wolves, it's not that Minnesota won the game, but the Lakers, they lacked intensity. They let the Wolves push them around. They weren't aggressive. Like, I just didn't expect that type of response in a Game 1 at home from a veteran basketball team like L.A.
Yeah, I didn't either, but at the same time, Chad, like some of the things that win in the postseason, obviously defense and energy and intensity, but you have to have size to win in the playoffs. And even the Warriors, who didn't have a true center, they still had size. It might not have necessarily been in the middle, and your guy Bogut was still a 7-foot-tall dude, but they had size in other places. The Lakers just don't, and they don't have anybody in the middle. And even if that trade for Mark Williams didn't fall through, he's still not very good. So you're left with Alex Len, Christian Coloco. They don't really have a center. And to go up against Rudy Gobert in that series, and Naz Reid, who is a terrific backup center, they just don't have the size inside. And when that's the case, nobody is scared about driving to the rim when you have no size in the middle.
Yeah, you know what else? I really, just like I feel about Jalen Brunson, Naz Reid is one of my favorite role players in the NBA. Like, he brings toughness to the squad, and for a big guy, I mean, he'll rebound, he can run the floor, but he's also got a feathery touch from downtown. I like the way he plays.
Yeah, he shot over 40% from three this year, Chad, and he does it with this set shot. You don't really see guys do the set shot three-pointer, and he does. And this means absolutely nothing to anybody, but last time we were in Minnesota, it was Naz Reid bobblehead night, and I was pretty fired up to get one of those.
Oh, did you get one?
Yeah, of course I got one.
Oh, dude, money.
I got a bunch of bobbleheads this year.
Oh, that's great. Well, I'm going to catch a Dodger game, and one of the games I'm going to, Vin Scully bobblehead night. I need one of those.
Okay, now is it like the first X number of fans? Because last year the Yankees game that I went to was Juan Soto bobblehead night, and I got there 2.5 hours before the game, and they were already gone.
Well, it is, but here's what I did. You know how sometimes your boss will say, hey, if you're doing this, make sure you hit me up. Well, Marshall, my big boss, he told me after I told him, a couple of years ago I was down in L.A., he goes, oh, you should have hit me up. I can get you the iHeart hospitality because the Dodgers are on, the iHeart station down there in L.A. So
yeah.
This year I went to him and I said, look, bro, I'm only asking because you told me to. I said, I need iHeart hospitality for these games. And he said, no problem. So he put in the request. And so I think I'm going to have access to the bobbleheads before, so I don't have to be in line 5 hours before.
Sure.
Because I saw that line. It was, for Shohei. When they had a Shohei bobblehead night.
Yeah.
Dude, the fans were lined up 6 hours before the game. I don't need a bobblehead that bad. That's insane.
No, not at all. When are you going?
I'm going to go down there in mid-May.
Okay, thanks for the invite.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that, but it's
no, it's okay. I wouldn't have been able to anyway. It's Lincoln's birthday, but yeah, that sounds like an awesome time.
Yeah, it's good. I just I just need one baseball series per summer to take in person because I'm becoming. I don't know if. Well, let me ask you this: does it happen with you where what I've found is that because I cover sports just like you do, I get burned out on certain sports, and so I've found other sports to get into to help keep my desire for sports alive. And so I'm becoming, over the last few years, a bigger baseball fan. And I love going to a series, at least one series a year, to take in some games and just watch the action. I really enjoy it. But do you find that with sports where you find different things or get into different things at different times?
I do, and I still feel like I'm a baseball fan first because, we've never really covered Major League Baseball. There's no team in Portland. And even, when we do talk shows, and we do talk shows every day, we talk very little baseball. So I get to be a baseball fan. I've had the MLB.TV for years, so I can watch the Yankees at 4:00 every day. And like you, I'd love to get to a series every year. Or if we're on the road. Last year, I got to go to a Marlins game on our day off in Miami. I didn't get to do that for any games this year, but I would love to. And now that the hockey playoffs are starting, I'm getting back into being a bigger hockey fan, and it's great, man.
No, it's the best. And that's the one thing I noticed, too, watching, the NBA playoffs, the NHL. We say this every year, but it's just amazing to me how much better the product is in the postseason because the preparation is different, the intensity is different, and the way the guys approach the game is totally different. Like, I love everything about it. So intense.
Yeah, it's awesome. And my first year calling games, the 2018-19 season, when we were in Denver for the second round series.
Yes.
So we played Denver game 1. We had an off day in between games 1 and games 2, and the Avalanche were playing a home game 3 against San Jose. So I went to that, and hockey in person is amazing, but hockey playoffs in person, I can't even describe it, dude. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, and he's a good friend. He invited me to that one.
Yeah, that's right, Chris. We did go together.
We did. That was fun.
I've been.
It was.
My hockey playoff experience was when the Sharks made their run back in 2015 to the Stanley Cup. I had a chance to go and check out multiple games and multiple rounds down at the Shark Tank, and it's the same experience. I was just totally blown away by the atmosphere. It was awesome. And those guys are tough, and they skate really fast.
Didn't you go to a finals game against Pittsburgh?
I did. Yep. Yeah, it was really awesome.
That's awesome.
And Sidney Crosby, like most people know, like I just thought I respected the way he played, and he was a superstar at the time. So it was just cool to be able to see Sidney in person. I'd never done that before.
Yeah, that's really cool.
All right, Trav, I want to ask you about the Rockets and Warriors. Should the Rockets be encouraged, meaning they got down by 23, they had an awful offensive game, and yet they were able to pull to within 4 points late in that game, and their defense was terrific? Or should they be concerned because they don't play half-court offense well, and they really don't have anyone on the roster that appears to be able to provide consistent shooting? Like, where are you at right now after game 1, after seeing the way it went down?
Well, the last two things you said, Chad, are why I didn't think the Rockets were going to win that series, and I thought it was going to be a 5 or a 6-game series. I think the Warriors are going to beat them and beat them pretty good. Yes, they've got a couple of guys who have made deep playoff runs. Fred VanVleet has won a championship, but they don't, to me, with the experience level, their lack of a very clear number one guy who can just go get a bucket, and the fact that they can't play in the half court. You can't win in the postseason that way. So, yeah, I mean, they can be encouraged, but I still think that, obviously, after losing game 1 at home, now game 2 is a must-win, and I think they've got a very good chance of this being a short series in Golden State's favor.
What's going to be fascinating to me is you look at the minutes totals in game 1, 37 for Green, 40 for Curry, 42 for Jimmy Butler. How long can those three continue to play big minutes? Because it's pretty clear that Steve Kerr is not going to go deep into his bench as this team continues to push through the postseason.
Well, again, Chad, you saw this. When the Warriors won championships, they were able to go pretty deep into their bench, right?
Yes.
And with that, if they were up by, 15 in the fourth quarter, they could go 10, 11 deep and still be okay and rest some of their guys. Now that those guys are getting older and they're not as deep and they don't have as much trust in some of those guys that are 9, 10, 11 on their roster, they're going to have to play Curry and Draymond Green and Jimmy Butler. They're going to have to play those guys big minutes. And I think there is a chance of that wearing them down. But at the same time, those guys have been through it enough where I think they can manage themselves pretty well. And I don't think it's going to be that much of an issue. But there's a chance it might cost them a game or two, which could end up costing them a series.
All right, Trav, draft coming up on Thursday. What do you want your New York Giants to do at number 3?
If they keep the pick, I want them to draft Carter at 3. He is a beast, and they need all the help they can get on both lines, really, defense and offensive line. I would not, obviously Cam Ward's not going to be available at 3. I wouldn't take any of the other quarterbacks at 3. Maybe trade into the back end of the first round and draft, whether it's a Jackson Dart or wait till early in the second round and draft a Jalen Milroe. But I don't think any of those guys are quarterback worthy in the top 5 when you've got a superstar potential in Carter sitting there on the defensive side of the ball. And, like we talked about it with the Broncos a few years ago, with Chubb, right? How that ended up being, the right call. And sometimes that's what you got to do. You can't draft a quarterback like that just because you need the future at that position. It doesn't mean you're going to get that guy.
Well, I think the Broncos could have had Josh Allen instead of Chubb, couldn't they have?
Yes, but at the same time, when we talked about it at the time going into it, we didn't expect Josh Allen to be, you didn't want Josh Allen because he was 7 feet tall and you were coming off of the Paxton Lynch experience. And, that obviously was not what you wanted.
You're right. In retrospect, obviously it's easy to look back now. Like if you're the Clippers, you're not trading Shea Gilgeous. If you're the Broncos, you're taking Josh Allen. But you're right. Josh Allen has turned out to be a superstar. I did not think he was going to become, the second best quarterback behind Mahomes in the NFL. Yeah, he's a stud. Yeah. I didn't see that happening, Trav. Now, I want you to explain this. You told me, explain the conversation between you and your son, because I found it quite fascinating how it went down and the answers he gave you.
So we're sitting in the car yesterday. I'm going to drop him off at his mom's house from lacrosse practice. And out of nowhere, he says, "Hey, Dad, do you want to know the 3 people that inspire me?" And I'm thinking, okay, Dad is definitely going to be one of those, right?
Yeah.
And I said, "Yeah, who?" And he said, "Guess." I'm like, okay. And I said, "Give me a hint." And he goes, And I go, Mommy. Mommy inspires you. He goes, "No." I'm like, okay. And knowing what he knows, I'm like, Michael Jordan. Yeah. So Michael Jordan was the first. All right, give me a hint on the second one. Aaron Judge? Yeah. I go, and what about the third one? And he goes, Abe Lincoln. He goes, no, Abraham Lincoln.
That is so awesome.
Okay, yeah, because his name is Lincoln. So the 3 people that inspire him, Michael Jordan, Aaron Judge, and Abraham Lincoln.
Well, I should have known the answer when I asked the question, but I asked you, how does he know about MJ? Because MJ is before his time, and you gave the answer that makes a lot of sense. It wasn't necessarily because of basketball games.
Well, I mean, yes and no. I mean, it started with Space Jam. He loves Space Jam. He's seen it a billion times. He does not like the second Space Jam. He knows that we don't like LeBron James, and we don't like the Lakers, and we don't root for them, and he does not like that movie. But he in his eyes, his almost 7-year-old eyes, Michael Jordan is the greatest of all time, and we've watched highlight videos and stuff like that. When I was in Chicago a few weeks ago, I made sure I got a picture of the MJ statue for him, and he knows all about MJ.
That's awesome. All right, who do you like in the finals? Which 2 teams?
I got the Celtics beating the Warriors in the finals.
A little rematch from a couple of years ago.
Yeah. I think it's a real tough match between Oklahoma City and the Warriors, but at this point with experience and knowing that the Warriors can find a defensive game plan, and when you have 2 teams that can play really good defense, yes, you have a star in SGA, and he can get to the rim, but they can't compete from beyond the arc if Steph gets hot. And I think the Warriors would win a really tough series, but Oklahoma City is a close second, and there is no close second in the East.
All right, Travis Demers, the voice of your Portland Trailblazers. Burkhart and I were talking about this earlier, but, the coin toss yesterday, so the Blazers sitting at 10th. What are you hoping for on lottery night on the 12th?
Ping pong balls to go our way, and we get the number 1 pick.
Yes.
That would be awesome. If we can, 2 or 3 or 4, okay. Number 1, we got a 4.3% chance. Let's do it. And let's say that doesn't happen. I'm really hoping that someone's sitting behind them, like Miami. Oh no, Miami's in the playoffs. Somebody sitting at 12 or 13 or whatever doesn't jump up into the top 4 and they get pushed back to 11.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, Trav, I appreciate the time, buddy. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, brother. Have a good one.
You got it. There you go. There's Travis Demers, voice of the Trailblazers. Thunder, an early 6-0 lead on the Grizzlies. Game 2 there in OKC. So they're well on their way to dominating once again. Boy, the length. And Burkhart, you and I talked about this. I'm with you. I think Oklahoma City and Boston are going to be the 2 teams. 9-0 OKC. I just don't see anyone on the level of Oklahoma City or Boston on either side of the conference.
I don't either. They're just too deep. I mean, the way Oklahoma City can beat you defensively, they can just beat you down, man. like Travis said, offensively, if they got into it with the Warriors, I could see where the Warriors could get them. But, man, I just like the way they play.
All right, we'll keep things rolling. 11-2 Thunder right now. And Indiana's got a 10-point lead on Milwaukee into the first in Indianapolis. I'm going to give away a pair of tickets for the Thorns coming up next, so listen to me for your chance to win. All right, Toyota and iHeart need your help filling the truck with canned and non-perishable foods to benefit the Oregon Food Bank. You can bring your donations and look for the specially marked Toyota Tundra this Friday from 4 to 6 at the Albany Fred Meyer. Then on Saturday from noon to 2 at the Fred Meyer in Warrenton. Join us at either Fred Meyer location as we fill the truck for Toyota and the Oregon Food Bank. Also, we got Grand Slam Cash going right now. Rip City Radio wants to line your pockets with Grand Slam Cash. Be listening to the keywords every weekday from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. on the 15s for your chance to win $1,000 13 times a day. It's Grand Slam Cash. You can get all the details at ripcityradio.com. Now, we have 2 pairs of tickets to give away for the Portland Thorns, and they're going to take on Louisville on April 27th at Providence Park. We want you to go and have a good time. So if you'd like to go and check out the Thorns on April 27th, we have 2 pair to give away. We'll do it right now. First 2 callers through, just fire away. 503-248-0620. 503-248-0620. Burkhart will get your information, and you'll be dialed in. If you want a pair of tickets for the Portland Thorns for April 27th, call now. 503-248-0620. 503-248-0620. First 2 callers through get a pair of tickets for the Thorns coming up on the 27th against Louisville. 503-248-0620. 503-248-0620. First 2 callers through get a pair of tickets for the Thorns taking on Louisville coming up on April 27th over at Providence Park. Fire away, 503-248-0620. Let's go out to the phones right now. This gentleman here, longtime caller. I have not heard from him in a period of time, but he wants to discuss what it's like seeing the Thunder rip it up right now. It's my man Tim in Milwaukee. Tim, long time no chat. The stage is yours. Fire away.
Hey, Chad. Absolute pleasure to be back on the broadcast. Great to hear your voice. And, yeah, I am a diehard Seattle Supersonics fan. So they were actually the last professional team that actually meant something to me where I would go out of my way to make them like priority programming or any kind of sports priority in my life. The first was the Boston Red Sox, and then in 2004 when they won their championship, then I focused on the Sonics, and then they took my Sonics away from me. So it's great to see OKC doing what they're doing this year. However, I wish that it was in the Seattle gold and green. With that, Chad, I had a couple of questions for you for the phone call. Number one, super quickly, have you seen this new sport? Well, I don't know how new it is. And I've only seen it in women's basketball where the rim has no backboard, and when you catch the ball, you can't move. You have to shoot or pass from where you are. Have you watched this before?
I have not, no. Sounds interesting, though.
Oh, pleased to be YouTubing that and Googling it. Chris said that he had seen it. Since you haven't seen it, I won't peg you with the second question. I was going to ask what you would bring to the NBA from that league, but it's super wild to behold. The second question that I had for you is with the signing of Billups and the GM to extensions, does this in any way, in your opinion, forecast anything in terms of a franchise sale?
I don't think that one is connected with the other. I think that Cronin got his extension because they thought he was doing a good job, Jody Allen and Burt Cold. And I think Chauncey, I don't think they expected to re-sign him, but because of his work and the development of the young players, they wanted to keep the young players connected with Coach, and I think he was able to, really do some work and get the job. So, no, I have heard nothing to believe that there's a connection between that and the potential sale of the franchise.
Okay, that's all I really had today. That last question has kind of been burning me up the last week or so, and I wanted to come to the one guy that I knew that could answer the call. So awesome. It's really good to hear from you again, man.
Dude, you're the man. That's Tim in Milwaukee. I love that guy. Yeah, I don't think there's any connection between that and the potential sale of the franchise. Cronin, I think, has done good work. And Chauncey Billups, while there are some fans who don't like him, don't think he's done a good job. I think he's really done good work, and he's gotten better. Now, he's still young and learning on the job, but he has improved, and he's showing, signs of growth as a coach, as you would expect with anyone on the job. But most importantly, the guys respond to him, and he works his tail off. All right, we'll keep things rolling. Brad Botkin is going to join us coming up at 5:20. You can jump on board at 503-248-0620. I appreciate your time on this beautiful Tuesday here in the Portland area. You got the Rip City Drive on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, what's going on, Chad? Here it's now 5 o'clock. Checking the NBA scoreboard with playoff action. Second quarter in Indiana. The Pacers lead the Bucks 53-43. They have a 1-game-to-none lead in the series. Damian Lillard made his return to action, his playoff debut. He's got 6 points in 11 minutes coming off of the deep vein thrombosis. First quarter in OKC, the Thunder on top of the Grizzlies, 22-12. They won game one by 51 points. And the nightcappers, 7 o'clock on TNT. Timberwolves with a 1-game-to-none lead on the Lakers. LA favored in game two by 5.5. Elsewhere, the Magic and Celtics game two tomorrow. Jason Tatum unlikely to play after taking a fall and bruising his right wrist. From the NFL, both the Browns and Giants, who owned the second and third picks in the draft, are taking calls from teams on potentially trading back. The Titans expected to draft Cam Ward, number 1 overall. All right, today is a nice little wheelhouse. Had a chance to work with Burkhart for a couple of hours. And now I've got my man Brendan Slaughter behind the mic. What's up, B?
What's going on, Chad? Good to see you, my brother. How's life?
It's all good. I was going to ask you, what's your big takeaway from the Beavers now that spring ball is wrapped up and you're moving on, and the next step will be summer camp? But what was your big takeaway? Was it quarterback? Was it something else? What stood out to you?
Yeah, I think it's pretty obvious that, Malik Murphy, elevated the quarterback room. And I think with the guys that you had in there last year, I don't think, that bar was ridiculously high. But that being said, the getting a dude under center was big, as far as maybe something to be a little bit, watchful of heading into the summer. The offensive line was pretty injured throughout spring, so you really only had about 8 guys for, 1, 2, 3 teams of offense. So they need to get healthy. They added a couple transfers, and I see where the the bright side is coming on this side of the group, and I really think they could be in store for 3-4 win improvement this year.
That's great. Do you notice the head coach Trent Bray being a little more comfortable and really sure of himself now that he's got his feet wet and 1 year under his belt?
Oh, yeah. No, without question, Chad. I mean, he even said it himself, post-spring game on Saturday. He's like, I think his words were, I was swimming a year ago compared to now. And I just think it's one of those things that, I think it's tough for anybody to be a first-year head coach when you're coming into a program and establishing a program. And then when you add in the challenges the Beavers had in terms of, replacing the guys that left, the guys that followed Jonathan Smith, the departures that just went elsewhere. He got dealt a tough hand, and I think he rebounded, and I just see no issue why the Beavers, with their schedule, can't be pretty competitive this next year.
Well, that's pretty awesome. All right, Brad Botkin from CBS is going to join us coming up at 5:20. He's got a lot of good takes, but I want to dive into the playoffs and really focus in on these series that we're seeing in the first round. I got to give the NBA props. The first round so far has been great. I love postseason action, but I like these matchups and some of the different young talent that we're getting a chance to watch, sprinkled in with some of the vets who have been around for a while. Steph Curry, even at 37 years of age, he's still getting the job done. What's amazing about Steph is that when he came into the NBA, there were all these question marks about his ankles and whether his body would hold up, and he's turned out to be, pretty much an Iron Man and such a consistent performer in big moments. They know they can lean on him. He makes good decisions. He's a great shooter. He was terrific in game one. So I've enjoyed the postseason so far. So we'll dive into that with Brad Botkin. I want to get his take on the Lakers and Wolves coming up tonight, and also what he expects in game 2 of that Rockets-Warriors series. Great defense on both sides. I don't know where to come out on this. Like the Rockets, they got to feel pretty good. You play an awful offensive game of basketball, can't make shots, but because of their defense and their energy, they were able to get back into the game and pulled it within 4 points late in the fourth. They were right there. They just couldn't get the shots to fall. So the question is, how do they find more offense to put themselves in a position to even up the series and make this a long series? I think that's going to be long. I think the Lakers and Timberwolves is going to be a long series, unlike what we're watching right now with OKC and Memphis. Thunder right now a 15-point lead with less than a minute to play in the first. It's not even a matchup. Oklahoma City is light years ahead of Memphis right now. I mean, Memphis looks like a total mess. And the Thunder are just deep, athletic, and they can get it done on both ends. And their point differential this year was off the charts. I understand they don't have a lot of playoff experience like, the Lakers or the Warriors, but man, they're by far the best team. So I'm anxious to see as the postseason continues how that plays out. And I like their head coach, Mark Daigneault. I think he's great. All right, the draft is coming up on Thursday. I think the biggest storyline to watch, at least the one I'm most interested in myself, is Shedeur Sanders. Where does he end up? And if he's not taken in the top 5, or if he's not selected by the Giants at number 3, then how far does he fall? I am a big believer in Shedeur, and I think he's going to be a good NFL quarterback. But the question is, where would he end up? And it could turn out to be a better thing for him that if he drops a little bit, like an Aaron Rodgers or one of those types, he may end up with a much better franchise. Like if he were to somehow fall to Pittsburgh, or what about one of these teams at the top that could use a quarterback, passing on Shedeur initially, taking one of the better overall prospects, and looking to trade back up so they can get their hands on Shedeur. So we'll see what happens. But he may end up in a better situation with a better franchise with more stability. And even though you may not like tumbling down the first round a little bit, in the long run, it could be much better because you wind up with a good franchise that has a good idea of how to build a team and build around a quarterback so you're in a better position to succeed. But I just like what he brings to the table, mainly his accuracy, his ability to stand in the pocket and put the football on time and on target. That's what it's all about. Like Cam Ward physically is more dynamic than Shedeur. But, the accuracy, the ability to stand in and deliver the football from the pocket, he's not as refined as Shedeur is. And I'm just curious, too, how many teams, if any, are looking the other way with Shedeur because they're concerned about, Coach Prime and just that whole element. I don't know. My guess is if you think a guy can play and he's going to help you win games, you're going to take him regardless of the situation. So we're going to see how that goes. Also with Ashton Jeanty, how high does he go? How many running backs are taken in the first round in a deep running back class? And have we seen the renaissance of the running back with what we saw last year with Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry, true workhorse backs who do it all, who had highly productive seasons being paramount in their team's offense? Or do teams still look at it as we're not going to spend a high pick on a back when we can get a quality back in the later rounds and we're going to continue to rotate guys? It's different than when I grew up. Teams had a number 1 running back. He got the bulk of the carries and the majority of the work, and that's just how it was done. But in today's game, it's usually running back by committee. And, with running backs, it's tough because I think of any position on the field, they take more punishment than anyone because they're running between the tackles. You've got guys who fly in from safety at linebacker, defensive lineman. They're getting the punishment from the big dudes on the field, and they're not protected like quarterbacks, so they just get blasted. It's hard to invest big-time dollars in a position where a guy's getting, rung up all the time. But on the flip side, when you see Saquon Barkley and the investment that the Eagles made in him, you realize real quick, like, oh, he's just different than everybody else on the football field. So I think Shedeur is the story to watch. Cam Ward, by all accounts, including Cam Ward himself, he's going to go number 1 to the Titans. And then number 2, I would fully expect Travis Hunter to go second to the Browns. And with Hunter, the other big thing to keep in mind, I've talked about the practice issue, the film study, the meetings. It's really hard to be fully prepared on both sides of the football if you can't be everywhere all at once. So I don't know preparation time, how you get ready for an NFL game if you got to be in offensive meetings and defensive meetings. And maybe that's overblown a little bit, but I doubt it. But the other thing to keep in mind, too, at Colorado, part of the reason why Travis Hunter was able to play on both sides of the football at such a high level, he didn't practice during the week. And you can get away with that in college because the game plans aren't as sophisticated. And the talent level that you're facing week in and week out when you play in the Big 12 is not the NFL. So Travis Hunter can take the week off, rest his body, and then go out there and play it both ways and do it at a high level. But in the NFL, the defenses are very sophisticated. The offenses you're facing are sophisticated. So it requires not just on the field work, but a lot of film study. Like we're talking about excessive amounts of study. And he's going to have to practice. Like you can't not practice and play both ways full time in the NFL. There's no way you could get ready for that type of competition. So while I want him to play both ways because I think he's a dynamic athlete and he's capable, I just don't know how he can make it work. And not only that, but if you are playing both ways and practicing during the week, is your body going to hold up? But I don't like to limit guys like Travis Hunter because he's not normal. He's a different type of athlete who played on both sides of the football in college full time and did so at an incredibly high level. And I got to be honest with you, I don't even know which way I would pick if I were him. Yes, being a receiver is nice because you will make more money and you get a chance to celebrate because you get in the end zone when you score points. But I like the idea of corner because if you can be a lockdown corner, you can be out there in an island and avoid some of the significant contact, unlike a receiver who's defenseless over the middle and you get blasted and lit up by a safety or a backer. A corner, you're going to take less punishment. And that would allow you potentially to have a longer and more illustrious career where you can make up some of that money in the long run because you're able to play longer. So I don't know. I mean, Travis Hunter, he's a pretty straightforward, legit dude. When he talks about playing both ways, he's not saying it selfishly. Like, he really wants to play both ways because he loves the game. And in his mind, he's like, hey, play me both ways because that's how I'm going to be able to help you the most because I can do it both ways. And it's pretty awesome to be in a position to where you're good enough to where you can even consider such activity. Maybe they'll let him start out full time and then he'll discover on his own, like, oh, the NFL is different. And it is. It's just a different beast because you're going up against sophisticated teams on both sides of the ball, and the quality of athlete week to week, game to game, team to team that you face, it's just different than college because they're all ones out there in the NFL. It's not too often you find too many guys out there you're competing against in the NFL that aren't good at their job. Occasionally. But for the most part, you're talking about guys who do it the best, who have been the best, and who physically are, dominant. And, Travis Hunter's he's in great condition, but he's not an oversized guy. He's not large. So who knows how that's going to play out. I do think Abdel Carter, that pass rusher for Penn State's a super stud, obviously. Look at his body, the disruption, and we look at the three most important positions in the NFL. What are they? Well, I would say quarterback is number one, and then you look at edge rusher and left tackle. It's been like that for a while, but the edge rusher is so critical in today's game because teams are pass happy, and you got to have someone that can get in the backfield in a hurry and disrupt the offense and basically put pressure on the quarterback. Get up in his grill, get him on his back, get him off his platform, and you want to disrupt what the offenses are trying to do. All right, we'll keep things rolling. Brad Bakken, CBS Sports. We're going to go deep dive NBA playoffs. I love him. He's terrific, and we'll get his take on a variety of different things. How does Houston find offense? Will the Lakers bounce back tonight and have a better overall performance? And are the Knicks in trouble going back to Detroit? And what about Oklahoma City? Will the experience or lack thereof cost them later rounds? Brad Bakken, CBS Sports, coming up next on the Rip City Drive on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, I love talking basketball with this guy from CBS Sports. He is the father and husband of the year. Brad Bakken is back on the Rip City Drive. Brad, it's great to have you back on. So many things to talk about. First off, I want to play this audio clip just to get your reaction because when I heard it yesterday, it's one of those things where I was like, that's got to be AI. There's no way that's real, and yet it happened. Here's Nico Harrison when asked about Luka and his relationship with the fan base.
I did know that Luka was important to the fan base. I didn't quite know it to what level.
I mean, how can he say that if you're the GM of the Mavericks?
Is this guy out of touch or what?
Gosh,
I mean, it's unbelievable. Yeah, he's really, really out of touch. The more this goes on, and the deeper the hole gets dug of him trying to justify the reasons why they did it. It just reeks more and more of a guy who wants so much control in the organization, wants so much credit for how things go. You know, when you're the GM of a team that is centered so much around one player and from everything from the offense to the media attention to everything is just everything that Luka does. If you're a person that wants your slice of credit, if you're sort of in that ego camp, I'm starting to see sort of like the psychology element of it, where he wanted to be smarter than everybody else in the room. He wanted to show that he can do this without Luka, that he went out and got Derek Lively. He made the trades for Gafford and P.J. Washington. He brought in Kyrie Irving. And I think from the start, and this is all my opinion from afar, but it seems like from the start he just has had a bone to pick with Luka Doncic and the way that he takes care of himself and just kind of didn't like the guy and didn't like that he was the face of the franchise. And I think it's becoming clearer and clearer that he just got way outside of himself and lost track of reality and thought, I'm bigger than everyone, including Luka Doncic. I can build a better team without him. I can be the orchestrator, the one that gets ultimate credit. And he is just blowing this from a PR standpoint. The trade is already made. Now it's just a PR standpoint. He's blowing it at every turn. He sounds so bad.
Yeah, it's really awful. I just can't believe it. I'm still stunned, and it might be best to just shut up and not say a word. You know, I was having a discussion with a buddy last night. I've really enjoyed these first-round games so far. It's been great. But, you know, who would you choose, Luka and LeBron or Steph and Jimmy Butler in terms of duos if you're going to pick one in the NBA playoffs?
I just wrote about this. I don't know if that's why you're asking me that, but I think Steph and Jimmy are the best duo in the league right now. I really do. Certainly, you can make a reasonable argument for Luka and LeBron or Jalen and Jason Tatum, but the thing that's really, really unique about Steph and Jimmy is the complementary aspect. Everything that Steph doesn't do, Jimmy does, and vice versa. Steph doesn't get to the line, Jimmy does. Steph doesn't defend, Jimmy does. Jimmy doesn't shoot, Steph does. Steph's a little out of control and plays a little crazy with his hair on fire. Jimmy calms everything down. They're so perfect in their complementary aspect where, you know, when you're splitting hairs between these fantastic duos, you know, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown do a lot of similar things. Luka and LeBron do a lot of similar things. So there's at least the possibility of some level of diminishing return on those players, where Steph and Jimmy are doing completely different things. They are truly 2 + 2 is 4, you know, and that's why I have them as the best duo right now. It's unbelievable how well Jimmy Butler has fit into that really, really unique Golden State puzzle, where you've got to be anticipatory, you've got to be reactionary, you've got to be not rigid, and be able to make plays by read and react and cut and know where Steph's going and sort of be thinking one step ahead, all on the same page. These are things that a lot of newcomers have had trouble with, the guys that haven't been in the system for years. And Jimmy came in from day one and just felt like he's been playing with Steph and Draymond his whole life. So, I think from a complimentary standpoint, that's what puts them over the edge of any other duo.
Well, I agree with your assessment. They were so great in game one. So if you're the Rockets, are you encouraged after game one because you were down 23, you didn't shoot the ball well, and yet you were there with a few minutes left, only down by 4? Or is it a situation where you're like, uh-oh, the Warriors are really good defensively, we can't shoot, and we're not good in the half court? How do you see it right now after game one?
I didn't see anything in that first game that I didn't expect, and I don't think there's anything to be super excited about if you're the Rockets, and I don't think there's anything to be super pessimistic about. We know they're going to have trouble scoring. We know that they're going to be reliant on somebody having an outlier game, Jalen Green having one of his heater games, Dylan Brooks getting hot from 3, somebody doing something outside the realm of normalcy. They were going to be relying on that from the start of this thing. But look, Jimmy and Steph had 56 points, 66, 56, something like that. They both were fantastic. Steph made a lot of crazy shots. The one falling out of the bounds was nuts. They got a couple of pretty timely calls that went their way. So I can see that Houston being in their war room and saying a couple of these pendulum swing factors go our way, we can be in this. I actually thought Houston was going to win the series. The thing that
so did I.
I was proved wrong a little bit in game one, where I really thought, Amen Thompson, and this is on me. Steph Curry's been doing it long enough, but I started to buy into, at his advanced age, the athleticism, the discipline, the face guarding. I really thought Amen Thompson was going to make life so difficult on Stephen Curry that it was going to make the whole offense, everybody try to play one step above what they are. And it was so great watching Curry. Early on, I thought, here we go. It's exactly what I thought. The first 3 3-pointers he took were rushed. He felt like a quarterback who's been rushed all day, and then he finally gets a clean pocket, but his nerves are already so haywire, he can't calm down. He got open looks, but he was already so antsy to get going because of the pressure Amen Thompson was putting him on. I thought, here we go. And he got to the bucket for 4 straight layups. He said, all right, I'm going to use this aggression against you. I'm going to let you run me off the 3-point line. And he got downhill for 4 layups and a little elbow jumper. He had 10 points. You will almost never see this from Stephen Curry, where he's got 10 points in a game. His first 5 shots are all 2-pointers. You will almost never see that. But that's how he opened it up. He opened up his confidence, his rhythm, and he got them having to worry a little bit more about his downhill effect. And then all of a sudden the 3 started going. It's such an illustration of one of the greatest scorers ever, that it's not just that he's the greatest shooter ever, that on a night when they're face guarding him at the 3-point line, they're doing everything possible to run him off the line. He's got 2 or 3 other things that he can go to. I can get to the rim. I can finish on cuts. I can move without the ball, get to the elbow, pump fake, draw a foul. The best scorers ever were guys that could score in 4 different ways. And I think we all knew this to some degree, but it still seems to be somewhat surprising, even to me, when Steph starts doing the bulk of his damage inside the arc. And he's more than capable, and that was really the difference in game one, is that he got going inside the arc.
Well, that's a great assessment. I love how he's improved his game to, put the ball on the floor and drive past the closeout and finish at the rim with contact. He's gotten really good at that. Now, I noticed in game one, 37 minutes for Draymond, 40 for Steph, 42 for Jimmy Butler. Steve Kerr clearly doesn't trust guys like Jonathan Kuminga, so is he just going to continue to play those guys huge minutes?
I think so, and you're going to see that with all the teams because the Western Conference is too tight.
Yeah,
there's no room for error. There's no room for even a 1 or 2 minute stretch where you try to steal some minutes. So you've got your 8 guys, and that's it. These guys, Jokic, Kawhi Leonard, I think was over 40. They're all going to play. The teams are too closely matched. There is no room for the Warriors to try to watch Stephen Curry or Draymond Green's minutes, and so. Perhaps we're having this conversation if in the second round or if they get to the conference finals where it's a cumulative effect. That can be a down the road conversation, but they don't have the luxury of playing it a different way. They're just not good enough, and the other teams are too good.
We're talking with Brad Bach and CBS Sports. What surprised you the most in game one with the Timberwolves and the Lakers? Was it the 42 wide-open threes they got, the transition points, or just the overall lack of physicality from the Lakers? What jumped out at you?
Well, watching that game to me seemed like sort of like the JV team, and this sounds like such a slight because the Timberwolves. I really believe, and I said this for months before the playoffs started, that you can throw out the seeds below OKC. OKC is very clearly the best team in the conference for sure, and
Yes.
probably in the league. And we didn't give enough credit to that. We sort of tried to lump everyone. You know, we've said, okay, yeah, they're the best team, but they're beatable. They're too new on the block. They were like the Warriors in 14-15, where until everybody sees it, they don't want to admit it. They're the best team. But below them, every single one of those teams, 2 through 8, Houston through Memphis, every single one of them is basically just as good.
Yeah.
The seeds are absolutely irrelevant. And so to say that Minnesota's an underdog at 6-3 is not true. But yeah, the painting of a series like that is like Luka and LeBron, you know, the fancy Lakers.
Yeah.
It's just sort of like it feels like this underdog situation. And game one was a reminder that it's just not. The Timberwolves are just as good as the Lakers, if not better. They're a super tough defensive team. Now, the thing that the Lakers can hang their hat on tonight is that they had some, say like the Bucks in the East are like, and Doc Rivers has even talked about this, but they're like super reliant on their peripheral players making threes. And that makes you a very random team. On a night when Kyle Kuzma and, you know, AJ Green and Bobby Portis and Taurean Prince, on a night when they're making their threes, then they're good. But on nights when they're not, they're not any good. And they didn't make anything in game one, and they lose to Indiana. So the Timberwolves were the opposite of that. Jaden McDaniels goes 8 for 11. Julius Randle goes 4 for 6 from 3. Naz Reid hits 4 threes. So probably not something that you're going to see a repeat performance in terms of 8 3-pointers from Julius Randle and Naz Reid, 25 points from Jaden McDaniels. Those are probably outlier performances.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, the Timberwolves played more physical. They played faster. At the fast break points were 26-5, I think. So to circle back to my original point when I called them a JV team, they're certainly not that, but it had the feel of the team that felt like, you know, sort of the young, something to prove team. We're having an inter squad game in practice, and they're bumping us up to play the varsity. We're going to show that we're better than you. It felt like that kind of thing where like they came out, pedal down, something to prove. They played more physical, they played faster, they played more athletic, and it really had a feel of like a JV varsity scrimmage game where the JV really had something to play for from an ego standpoint. That's what it felt like watching to me.
That's pretty awesome. Brad, I wanted to ask you just about Jalen Brunson because I know you love ball, but how cool is this guy? Like, I'm watching him play, and I'm just falling in love with this game, but his demeanor, his toughness, the way he can get to his spots and get shots off from all angles. Like, he didn't even play great last night, and he still had 37. I just like the way he rolls.
Isn't he so good? Isn't it crazy that the Mavericks have managed to trade Jalen Brunson and Luka Doncic? Like, if you really think about that, like, honest to God, you're talking about 2 of the 5 best point guards on the planet, and they've managed to dump both of them.
Unreal. Unbelievable.
It's unbelievable, and they dumped the first one because they had the second one. You know, I don't need Jalen. We got Luka. They want to dump him, too. It's just unbelievable. It would have been like the Warriors dumping Monta Ellis only to then dump Steph. Like, I mean, give me a break. So, yeah, he's crazy. I got to admit he's starting to rub me a little wrong. And this is the ref's fault. 2 times last night. When are they going to figure out that it's not a natural shooting motion to jump 3 feet forward? I'll tell you what. Make Jalen Brunson jump 3 feet forward on a wide-open three-pointer. Then I'll believe that's his shooting motion. You know, just because you get a defender in the air doesn't mean you've won the battle. That's how you play defense. You jump up to contest a shot. These guys are jumping straight up. So these guys throwing themselves into them, it's still even though the emphasis they put on it with James Harden and Trae Young, you're not supposed to be rewarded for it. Still, as soon as these guys see a defender leave their feet, it's like just throw yourself. And he got 2 of those calls last night.
I agree.
Thankfully, Detroit still won the game because that would have been bogus. And I think Jalen Brunson's fantastic. His footwork, He's got really kind of like a short man's post game.
Yes.
He's constantly putting his butt into you and spinning and pivoting and all these little like old school like playground like court knowledge moves. It's really fun to watch. He doesn't just blow by anyone. So he's got terrific body control and leverage, low leverage. But, yeah, I am starting to get a little bit bent on why are these referees so gullible? Like, this is a point of emphasis. It's so easy to see. These are not – I have some empathy when the guys are moving super fast and it's a tough call, these out-of-bounds plays or whatever. But these – when the guy's doing a broad jump 3 feet forward into – it's so obvious. I just don't know how they continue to whistle that as a foul. It's pretty bad.
No, I'm glad you brought it up. I felt like I was watching Trae Young when he's in the penalty last night. That's how bad it was.
I know.
It's like, come on, man.
And my guy Steph does it too. I got to be fair. Like these guys, I've been playing basketball for 25 years. Now, okay, now we're not talking NBA basketball. Fine. I don't think I've ever shot one jump shot in my entire life and ended up on the floor. Never, not one time. It's like actually part of the follow through now to fall over. It's actually like. It becomes so normal that we don't think anything of it. Like, think about, I don't know if you played basketball, or think about the number of times you've been in a pickup game or wherever, and you've shot a regular jump shot and ended up on your back.
Never.
It's so abnormal, and yet we make this like it's Steph does it, Harden does it, like they just fall down. Like it's just part of the shot. And it gets rewarded so often that, and I guess it's just human instinct. You see a guy fall down. We do it on illegal screens and everything. The screen wasn't illegal, but the guy fell down. So I guess refs are human, and you just react to seeing somebody hit the floor. But give me a break. These lunges forward, these jump shots where I end up on my back. Like, has anyone not ever played basketball in their life? Like, you don't just fall down. Like, you have to actually get hit pretty hard to end up flattened on your back. It's just... I can't stand it.
No, it's terrible. Now with the Knicks in particular, like that was a great win by the Pistons last night, one of the great stories in the NBA. But are the Knicks, are they in trouble right now going back to Detroit because
Yes.
They struggled, and I'm not even sure if Karl Anthony Towns played last night. That's how bad it was.
So outside of a 21-0 run at the last minute of Game 1, they've just been thoroughly outplayed in the first two games.
Yeah, like 7 of the 8 quarters, yeah.
Yeah, the Pistons have been clearly the better team. And
does that surprise
you? No, it doesn't. The Pistons are a lot better than people think, or I shouldn't say people think, probably than people are aware of.
Yeah.
They're not the most, nationally relevant team. Pistons are defensively, they're dogs, and Cade Cunningham can get into the paint at will. I think he must have been top 3 in drives. So he's impossible to keep out of the paint.
Straight line drives all night, Brad.
Yeah,
it was straight
exactly.
line. Gosh.
I love that you say that. It's totally true. It's not these play with his food crossover on you. It is shoulder into you, straight line into the paint. He's so big. He's so strong. He's just so sturdy. You can't and then he's able to kick to these shooters. That was what was really smart. Is what Detroit did is putting a Tim Hardaway around, putting a Tobias Harris, putting a Malik Beasley. Because when you've got a player similar to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, when you've got a player that's impossible to keep out of the paint and also has the height to be able to see all the shooters around him once he does get in the paint, it becomes an almost like a virtually impossible dynamic to stop. And so that's what we're seeing, that even when Jalen Brunson gets in the paint, the kick out part, he more has to do it as a scorer. You saw that late in the fourth quarter. It's like, I just got to get mine because Mikal Bridges is not making shots. Karl Anthony Towns is not making shots. Josh Hart's not making shots. And so Jalen Brunson has to put on his Superman cape. Cade Cunningham, and he was pretty much Superman for Detroit in Game 2. But I am starting to believe more and more in the peripheral shooters of Detroit than I am New York's. And that's where there's going to be some hard conversations, I think, with the Knicks, certainly if they lose in this series. But even if they get through it and then go out with a whimper against Boston, where, they paid a fortune for Mikal Bridges and for Karl Anthony Towns. first-round draft picks in total for those two guys, plus another pick swap, plus Julius Randle, plus Dante DiVincenzo. And they didn't get 1 point from them in the fourth quarter last night. Mikal Bridges had 4 shots when the game was within 2 possessions with under 3 minutes to play, 4 of them. So basically huge shots. Missed all 4 of them, including the potential game tire with 11 seconds left. So he doesn't need to be a superstar. It's one of those weird situations where you would almost never see somebody traded for 5 first-round picks and not have to be a superstar. But in the context of the Knicks, he just needs to make timely shots. And last night was the definition of timely shots. We don't need you to score 30, but he had 4 shots last night that really could have put them over the hump in their comeback attempt again. And he just didn't earn his keep. He's got to make those shots. They paid too much for him, and Karl-Anthony Towns didn't even take a shot. I don't know if that's on Brunson as the point guard not finding him, if Thibodeau's not scheming things the right way, if Towns isn't being assertive enough. It's probably a mixture of all of it. But you can't pay 6 first-round picks for 2 guys that lay you a bagel in the fourth quarter of a close playoff game. It's just not your money's worth.
Yeah, I was also impressed with Jalen Duren. He struggled in game 1. I was concerned that the Pistons without Isaiah Stewart would have issues, but I thought Duren played pretty well in game 2 as well. But I got one more question for you. Yeah, Duren, is his body, like his shoulders, he's a man. Just one more side question, because I don't know the answer to this, and I was curious what you thought. But, Ty Jerome, I saw him and watched him closely when Cleveland played here in Portland, and I was blown away by the physicality and his shooting ability. But how does a player like that who, he's been in Phoenix, OKC, Golden State, and now with the Cavs, is it just a matter of getting the right coach, the right situation, or the right opportunity? Like, how does he all of a sudden pop and become a vital source on the Cavs' championship hopes?
Just happens now and again, doesn't it? It'll just happen with a player. More often than not, it doesn't happen. But when it does, it just conjures up these conversations of how the hell did this guy get away? Like my Warriors, how we had him?
How? Why?
We had him in the house. I don't even know who. I have to look back at who we got rid of him for. Maybe we just cut him. I don't really even know. He was good. You could tell when watching with the Warriors, like, this guy can play. You would never make the connection that he's going to end up with 28 in a playoff game and go 20 points over a 12-minute stretch, basically dominate the game. But I think that it's a combination of things. And the biggest thing is that he has no discernible NBA skill that you can hang your hat on. So he's coming out and he feels like a system point guard. He feels like you can't label him a shooter. You can't label him an athlete. You can't label him a defender. You can't label him size. There's no real one thing that you can hang your hat on. And still, even in a positionless NBA, there's still some residual, like some leftover bias toward guys that you can't put a label on. Is he a shooting guard? Is he a point guard? Is it, there's still some of that left over. And I think these guys that don't overwhelm you in any one aspect of the game where you can say that's what he's going to do. And then he starts building the stuff around that. That guy can shoot. That gets him on the court. That guy can defend. That gets him on the court. And then the other things start developing. There wasn't really one thing about Ty Jerome that said that's going to get him on the court. It just takes him getting on the court. Maybe that's opportunity, injuries, whatever. But it takes you seeing a longer period, a longer example to see he's just one of those guys that's just good. Like you add it all up, like one of these like Brock Holt baseball players where he's not a power hitter. He's not an average hitter. Sometimes he plays left field. Sometimes he plays second base. He's kind of fast, but not super fast. But he gets it. He's just good. Like he just helps your lineup. And Ty Jerome, those guys take longer to get in on the floor because there's not one thing that they do that forces their way on the floor. They have to get an extended kind of tryout to really show all the things that add up to a good player. He's like a 6 in all the combine boxes. So none of those overwhelm you, but you start adding up like 5 6s and it's like, that guy's just good. His total impact is just good.
Yeah. Brad Botkin, CBS Sports. All right, brother. It's great. Every time I have you on, I feel smarter. So I love talking ball with you, but man, enjoy these games. This first round's been great. And I'll be bothering you again soon in the near future.
Okay. Thanks. Have a good night.
You got it. There's Brad Botkin just crushing it. Gosh, dang, he's good. All right, let's see. Let's check the scoreboard in case you're bumping around out there. I know no one out there looks at their cell phone when they're driving, so I'm going to help you here. Right now, third quarter in Indiana, Pacers on top of the Bucks, 85-73. The Thunder up 18 at halftime, 70-52, and the Lakers and Wolves going to tip off at 7. Down at Crypto.com Arena, Lakers favored by 5.5. You got the Rip City Drive. All right, big thanks to Travis Demers and my man Brad Bakken for joining the show. This is going to be a quickie segment. And I mean, hey, who couldn't use a quickie once in a while, right? But that's what happens when you go over. Big thanks to Chris Burkhart and Brendan Slaughter for helping out. I'll be back tomorrow with the Rip City Drive at 3 o'clock. And I'm going to enjoy the Lakers and Timberwolves tonight. Looking forward to that game. And when I leave work here, I'm going to go hopefully find a firmer mattress to have better back support. That's the plan for the evening. But, man, what spectacular day outside.
Getting a new mattress, Chad?
I am. I got a new mattress last July, but, I thought I could make it work. It's just too it's not firm enough.
No, I feel it. A good mattress, they say you spend a third of your life on your mattress.
I don't know who they are, but they're right.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. It's fair.
But
yes,
do you prefer
it's got to be
firm?
comfy.
Do you like firm or soft on a mattress?
I'm more of a firm guy myself, but I've found that, like, if I go, like, at a hotel or somewhere and I'm not used to it, not nearly as good as sleep,
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
But, yeah, good mattress, good investment.
So let's see, what is tomorrow? No golf tomorrow, workout tomorrow. But, yeah, this weather's been great. You got to love it. But big thanks to everyone. Hope you guys enjoy the games, and thank you for your time. We'll be back tomorrow. We got Hops Baseball coming up on 620 Rip City Radio, but I'll be back tomorrow at 3 with the Rip City Drive, and it's right here in your home of the Trailblazers, 620 Rip